Morning, guys. We're rolling into Minden, Nebraska this morning, and we're actually set to pick up a tractor just barely north of Minden here. But there's also something else in Minden today that we're going to stop and see. And I got my wife Sarah along today because, well, we both wanted to go do this and have for a while, and today is just a good excuse as any to go see Pioneer Village, which I think the last time I was in Pioneer Village was like a 5th or 6th grader. But it's a large collection of automobiles, tractors, farm machinery, just an older era of stuff, essentially. But we're gonna go pick up a tractor first, which is like a mile north of town. It's a really rare tractor, actually, international, and we're gonna talk about that too, I suppose. But yeah, we got a little bit of driving left to do. We're just now rolling into Minden. We'll walk around the tractor in a minute, and then we will get it winched on today because it is a non-runner. It's going to be a project, but that's okay. But I figure as we drive by, we'd show you the front and sides of Pioneer Village here in Minden. They started this in the 50s, if I remember correctly, but it's a guy's collection they put together over the years. Pretty cool. Like I said, it's been probably 20 years since I've been in any of those buildings and don't remember much of it. There's a lot of stuff to look at in there. And actually the tractor we're going to get was supposed to be in Pioneer Village, but had a mild mishap, and so now it is going to be ours this morning, and it's going to be a little bit of a project, but a cool and rare international nonetheless. I said rare international, and this is it, actually. 856 International propane, which would be the last era of propane IH tractors you could get, was an 856. That's the biggest you could ever get too. This one was destined to go into Pioneer Village, but got damaged in shipping, basically, is how it happened, or unloading, from what I was told. They had an issue with a telehandler that met an oil pan, basically. So, yeah, we're gonna have to work on that, get an oil pan for this thing, oil pan, gasket, stuff like that. Motor doesn't turn currently. I do know that. I came and looked at this thing here, about a month ago, and we came to an agreement on it, on price. We're paying $2,500 for it, which might be a little steep, but maybe not. It kind of is what it is. I mean, they only made 91 856s in propane, so it's a pretty short production tractor. I think this is a 1968 model, if I remember correctly. Rather interestingly spec'd, in my opinion, and it's stanced out wide because, well, row crop, flood irrigation, stuff like that in this area of Minden. You know, a lot of irrigation. There's a pivot there in the background, but everything used to be flood irrigated around here, essentially. So tractors were on 36-inch and did a lot of row crop tillage. This one has signs like it carried a cultivator some in its life, and I mean, the front end has damage, like it, you know, was going up and over ditched rows and just broke, kind of like a 1206 we just looked at and brought home. Don't know what size the front tires, probably 9.5. Yeah, 9.5 L15s on the front. It's got 16 934s on the back, which is rather odd. I mean, that's the cheapest, smallest tire you could get on this thing, essentially. TA hydraulic seat, which is interesting. Shows signs that doesn't have the fender extensions and stuff on it, so might have had a cab at one point in its life, but don't know how you would have made a cab work with, well, the propane tank, essentially. It's a fast hitch tractor, which is good. Does have a third link somebody put on it. Interesting that it's a hydraulic seat tractor, but kind of low options. Got 2 remotes here on the back. Dual PTO, as pretty much always. Tires could be interesting. Hopefully I can get them to air up. I do know I was told the brakes were locked up, or at least they couldn't make it roll. There's your propane regulator that's not the original, and stuff like that. We'll have to dig into that more. But she is obscure, being a propane 856. So I guess from here I'm gonna start airing up tires and pray a little bit that we can get this thing up in the air, make my life a heck of a lot easier to load this thing. I think we're screwed on that one though, but we'll see. But yeah, we got to get it loaded, and then we'll go to Pioneer Village. loaded. Pretty undramatic loading, really, for having one flat front tire. Once I remembered to release the parking brake, everything just kind of rolled. Besides having to fight that front tire just in the sand and gravel, not bad. But I'm gonna head into Pioneer Village now. I'm gonna rob side panels off first before we take off, just so I don't lose badges and stuff, because those aren't cheap to replace. Wasn't sure. It's just the 06 series that say LP gas, but that's okay. So you can see 856 serial number 10841 LP turbo and or not turbo, TA, and I think 11 gallon per minute hydraulic pump. So yeah, let's go to Pioneer Village. Good news is we got like an hour and a half before lunch, so this will be fun. No need to rush. Kids are at school or daycare, so problem solved. Home and unloaded right next to the 1206 with a blown out wheel and tire. And Dad, I put a good tire in the front to unload this thing, and Dad stabbed my other tire on the front unloading it, so that's really nice. But yeah, here we are. We can look at this thing closer now that we're home. 856 LP Farmall. 1 of 91 produced, and 1 of 61 in 1968. Just like Corvette's numbers matter, or John Deere tractors. Rare. I mean, it really is a pretty rare IH tractor. This is the end of the era of IH propane stuff, too. Was the biggest propane international you could ever get, and the last of the IH propane tractors. I don't believe they made any, hardly any, in 69 or 70. I'm not sure they made any of these in 71 in propane, if I remember correctly. But interestingly optioned. And I mean, we've got some problems here, but things that are really not that hard to resolve, thankfully, given what we've got. I actually stuck a bar on the motor before I got it off the trailer, and it does spin free. The motor's loose. And my biggest concern out of this whole deal was, is the crank bent from the telehandler pallet forks bending the oil pan, or basically killing the oil pan? And the answer is no. The oil pan, though, is definitely screwed entirely. So gonna have to go to salvage yard. I don't have any gas motors currently to rob an oil pan off of, besides a 656 that's my grandpa's. I'm not pulling the oil pan off of. So we're gonna have to go find one of those. But yeah, so oil pan screwed. I need an intake boot here, but I have rotated the motor over, and it does spin a full 360 multiple times with very little resistance, which hopefully that means it still got compression, right? But we'll sort that out. I did notice here that the linkage that goes down to the trans brake, that's not supposed to be like that, but I can surely rob one of those off a parts tractor. It's just keyed on there with a snap ring on the end. We can sort that out. I've got plenty of 806 and 856 rear ends we can rob that off of. Brakes I took loose because they were locked up. Park brake works really well. It is interesting that it doesn't have the platform extensions here. I don't know why that is. Why it doesn't have the full width platform extensions, but it doesn't. And it shows no signs of ever having an ice cream box cab on it, or a diamond cab, or any cab on it for that matter. So that's perplexing. And I guess it doesn't have the lights right there like it would have been a cab tractor sometime in its life. Fenders here, quite nice. This one is. Got a extra hole there for what I assume was a radio. But, and a couple extra holes up there. I mean, nothing wild. That was a grease gun mount. Right rear tire, pretty bad. Rim is just junk. And these are 16.934s, which, I mean, I'd like to leave it original, but I have plenty of 18.434 stuff around, so we could go that way if we choose. I need to measure this rim to see if it's actually for a 16.934 or it's stretched. They stretch a 16.934 onto a 16.34 rim for like an 18.434. I don't know. That's curious. Two remotes, great. Fast hitch, not so great, but I'll take it as it is, I guess, because it's, oddly spec'd tractor. Just an interesting tractor in general. They did put a 3-point third link on it, and got a third link arm, so that's some dollars there. Missing the drawbar, that's no big deal. I've got that stuff around. Other fender here, kind of same story. Pretty nice. Got one little tear hole in it. That's okay. Yeah, missing the cover. It goes right there over the hydraulics, but that's, again, very minor. Trying to think what else here on the back to talk about. Not seeing a lot. Hydraulic seats, interesting. I don't run into a lot of hydraulic seat stuff, truthfully. So to have one come in on an 856 propane, which you think would be like a poor man's cheap tractor, kind of weird. Seat's actually pretty nice overall. Fairly newer K&M replacement that I might actually rob and put on my gold demo 1456, to be honest. Yeah, right rear rims not nearly as bad, but not, or left rear rims not nearly as bad, but does show some rust, and paint's pretty well gone. Tires kind of the same story, old. Step here, that breaks loose. There's your tear hole from who knows what. Yeah, hood on it is curious, just because it's a propane tractor. I do see it is a TA tractor, which is cool. Which, if you're turning around at the end, I'm sure the guys grab hold of the TA, whip this thing around with the row crop cultivator, and go back the other way in the era. But hood, this is all specific to LP stuff for an 856, which would be damn hard to replace. And unfortunately, there's a crack right here in like a burn mark. Like maybe it backfired out the intake once and caught the filter on fire. I'm gonna have to pull that cover off and look at that more, but it's definitely been warm in its past. Yeah, motor spins free. Spark plug wires and stuff look a little newer. They're not new, but they're not original, that's for sure. Starter looks like it's the original one for sure. Got all your lovely numbers there. Western Tank out of Texas, I'm sure, is the one that sold this tank. Does not have anything in the tank. It does have Murphy gauges on it, which are just safety gauges, if you don't know. They did say previously this thing spent some time running a corn dryer, which would make sense because they're feeding the dryer and this propane, I am sure. So that's fairly interesting. No real way to date, the last time this thing ran at all here, that I can tell. Yeah, pretty straight. I'd like to pull that cover off and look at the air filter and see what is going on there. Do notice that the couple bolts broke off here in the front mount for some odd reason. Isn't hurting function at all. Is what it is there. The front end been welded a few times. There at the knee, there left of center, and there right of center. I don't believe it was broke, but they added bracing to it at one point in time, I guess. Don't know why. Grill's pretty nice. Missing emblem off the front, minor, easy fix. Truthfully, you can get those. Yeah, pretty specific propane stuff going on here. That's not the original regulator and carb setup or throttle body or whatever you do. So we'll have to figure that out. Maybe that's better than what was original. I don't know. Alternators here. I think this shielding here is specific to gas or propane tractors only. Kind of interesting stuff there. Call up on the seat. Look at that stuff. It's got 9.5 L15 fronts, which really aren't a bad look with the 16.934s, in my opinion. I quite like this tractor, actually, and I'd like to have it running because it's just peculiar, and I would probably use it some around the yard and for other odd jobs, because I really don't like gas tractors because, well, they got problems. Carburetors gum up, stuff like that. LP stuff, pretty handy actually occasionally. Looks like that left valve, or maybe the right valve, has been replaced once before. We'll have to get new valves anyway. I'm sure those leak. And maybe a new filler setup as well. There's your Murphy gauges, which are nice to have because it actually reads out real oil pressure and temp. I would probably bypass those so they aren't killing my tractor though, personally, because I'm not running this stationary currently. If it was ever put on an auger or something, might be nice. LP stuff, so we don't have a fuel gauge here. It's up there on the tank. This and shift knob there. Reads 3,018.4 hours, which is entirely believable actually. It really truly is. It's unfortunate the glass is broken on that, but I could send this thing off and get it repaired for sure. Got the cover down there is still here. This stuff's all pretty nice there. I mean, really pretty good, presentable tractor. I'd like to get an oil pan on and get running, because I would probably actually use this just because it's a usable tractor. It really truly is. For me, it's a good size. I mean, you're looking at 80 horse non-diesel tractor. It'd be the biggest thing besides, well, that 806 over there that's propane that needs more work. Hopefully this is maybe a little bit more sound than that one. No real guarantees there, but I like this thing. I really do. Kind of interesting rig. You don't see 856 propanes very often, and pretty excited to have this thing. Overall, I think a 756 propane and an 826 propane are more rare, but I've never seen those either. Wish it still had an IH muffler on it, but we can get over that. Just a cool rig. Maybe one will pop them on a forum somewhere. And honestly, I probably don't need to run an IH muffler for fear of just breaking it off somewhere, honestly. Yeah, I'm gonna make some phone calls here, I think, to a couple salvage yards and see if I can come up with an oil pan. I'm gonna need a gasket. Gonna need to rig up a propane tank for now until I can get some fuel in it, or propane in it, for sure. But very tickled with this. This is a cool tractor, and we're gonna have to do some more work to it in the future for sure. And with that, guys, thanks for tuning in and following along on another adventure. This one's really cool. Hopefully get some parts going for it and maybe make it run here in the next couple months, I hope. Gonna have to just get an oil pan and jump in with both feet, I would say. But yeah, it'll be interesting to get this thing back running. Be a cool one to use for sure. But as always, please like, share, and subscribe. You can join the Hams Beer Fund and fund the tractor addiction and other life-shattering problems. Website's territorialtrading.com. Plenty of merch for sale, or not merch, toys and stuff for sale. Working on getting some more merch. I'm on all the social medias at Team Monty IH. You guys have a good one. Go drag something out of the weeds, just like this 856, and get it running.